Efi Lord the my pon my bia wa my ya ade shima Ebeneza Nyame abo aye Amayeti Demra Yeti Hallelujah Momayemfa Ehu Sinyo Kan Foyende Fopo Fono Ebeneza Nyame abo aye Wamayeti Demra Yeti Momayemfa Eru Sinjo Yanka Funo Tenpo Funo Zawaye Yekanalopa Yekaleria Yanajo Yekananajo Mabalinato Ebeneza Amayeti Yamina Waya Yamferusino Yankafuno Ebeneza Oh Yamwaya Adumo Yankafunyame Welcome, beloved, to tonight's edition of Fruitful Family. And like we always do, we come your way with this fruitful engagement every Sunday evening from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. And once we do that, we also invite you to join us on Facebook and YouTube. Incidentally, today we might not get us on Instagram, but we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Just type in JB Gate, and then once you are there, you like the page, you follow, and even subscribe, and more importantly, share. I realize that Pastor JB Dankwatebi is already on the line, all the way from Delaware in the United States of America. Tonight we want to continue with our series on Mothers of Destiny. And tonight we'll be looking at another woman, another mother of destiny. We are done with Rebecca. And tonight we will move on to another mother of destiny. This is a woman who demonstrated faith and fortitude. My name is Pastor Gate, and every Sunday evening I come your way with this program, Fruitful Family. And for some time now, we've been considering mothers of destiny as a theme. And in the series, we've already looked at Rebecca. And tonight, we want to look at another woman known as Jochebed. 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 And Jochebed is the woman we are considering today. And we want to start with Jochebed today. And if you are unable to complete her story, then we will continue next week, God willing. But my media team has always been very helpful, and they are here with me. Francis Dufe is here, the head of the media team, a guru by all standards. David Tete Manche is also here, able assistant. James Hawudi Jr. is out there holding the fort. Nuti Fafa Segbenya is on his way. It's indicated because they all have the roles they play. Seth Nete is not here with us in the studio, but he is always in the background sending the links, making sure that you get the right links and join us. Now, let me also announce that every Wednesday from 12 noon to 1 p.m., 12 noon to 1 p.m. every Wednesday, I come your way on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube with the program Lunchtime with Fathers. Lunchtime with Fathers. So every Wednesday from 12 noon to 1 p.m., join me as we have lunch together with fathers. And this is lunch where the meal is the Word of God and tidbits on fatherhood. But then tonight, on this side of my program, I'm looking at mothers. So I'm looking at mothers here at Asempa 94.7, and then I'll be looking at fathers on my Wednesday lunchtime with fathers program. Once you are, the same channels, JB Gate, and then you are there on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Join us as we share fellowship over the Word of God. Now, tonight we want to look at a woman about whom very little is mentioned, but her deeds and her attitude of faith and fortitude has, brought her into the limelight, and as a result, the son she produced became one of the greatest men in biblical history. And we want to look at that woman briefly. The woman is known as Jochebed. And Jochebed was the wife of Amram, and we are talking about the mother of Moses. The mother of Moses. So quickly, let's read about her in Exodus chapter 2. Exodus chapter 2, I will read the first 10 verses. And the man of the house of Levi went and took as a wife a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh, then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew woman, that she may nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, or Moshe, saying, "Because I drew him out of the water." Now, this is the beautiful story of the faith and fortitude of this mother of destiny known as Jochebed. As a matter of fact, her name is not even mentioned in this passage, but no, later on, we read about her in the book of Numbers, and her name is mentioned as the wife of Amram, and then the mother of Moses. So let's also read Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 23. Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 23. It says, "By faith, when Moses, when he was born, was hidden 3 months by his parents, because they saw he was a beautiful child, and they were not afraid of the king's command." Now notice this, they were not afraid of the king's command. We'll comment on that later. But you see, the greatest achievement a mother can have is her belief in the destiny of her child. And the greatest act of faith of a mother is her belief in the destiny of her child. The acts of mothers are deeply rooted in this belief that I'm talking about. And so a mother would do anything if she believes in the destiny of that child. And then you read the Yersia of Obabia, what friend Jochebed. Jochebed, or ye Moses Nina, na Amram ne yer, na ono no ho asam na yer ken ye kenkan kyerɛsɛm na enyim story no dem oyɛ ya ɔde Moses ko suma wɔ nsu bi no, na Pharaoh ne baba ɔbɛ bɔto no, na efi ɔgye no, na dza ɔkeka ho nyinaa no, ɔno no ho asam na yer bɛkan. Na da ɔtenyi dɛ ɛnanom sɛ ɛna bi wɔ hɔ, ɔde n'enyiwa si ne ba ho no hu dɛ ne ba no biribi papa bi wɔ no mu a, ɔbrɛ ɔpere dɛ ɔbɛhwɛ abɔfra no yie. Now, when a mother believes in the destiny of a child, she will do anything. And so what happens if when mothers are careless and reckless with their children. That tells you they don't even know the children they are carrying. Se inyim abofra no ne dacha na etoto na ase. Na enne ma yerusuen onye nkranhye imma awofo bebre nkanka enanom. De won hu de abofra biara nyamedze ne ba ma wo no oye abofra soronko a onyi de etoto na ase. Osande abofra biara ye dehye wo nyame anyim. Eba na nyamedze ama wo no se iruhu ne dama nche inja no ma onka ne namkwa. Inde awehu sembia metse. And maybe, of course, you can't blame the woman. And maybe or rest none but 10 years into minchini shedem. I mean, Oboko Kudagor, okay, Zagra, Uncrophobia, when you are build warrior money ritual. Wakachi abofrey, we kuniyayo, my mineral kanasam, and a marankasa miriteno, and a arehuakam. Now, let me use this opportunity to appeal to NCA. I think we have too many, money ritualists on our televisions. And according to the boys who did this when they were arrested, they said they watched a certain malam. And then they went to see him later on, and he requested that they bring human parts for the ritual. It's becoming too much. In the Ibobwe television station be, I don't know. I mean, if you want station, and I think sometimes they do it around the same time. If you want station, no, you nkofuna badu ha, ebadan no bisu ha, ebadan no bisu ha, a konfu. Fine. I mean, religious freedom, but some krofu wo radio dina wore kade. Mama enyesika. A money ritual, ye. I mean, doesn't it even affect the economy? Sikano fi him fan when you was about what film from me, and I send a shadow to them away sikara. But apart from that, rituals are okahunu in the kokuei in the day in a basa, and they shamelessly say these things on television. Maybe this incident should draw the attention of NCA, a National Communications Authority, or I'm not too sure, but then the appropriate authority to look at these things. In there, a confusion now we see signboards, what one can say, binum crampo boy, one can one television. Now, say with television, I said, there can one some that are fine. But there, yeah, man, crofin ye juma, now one cafe in bra, mamma mania sikade, the barape, a day cahu, a day bebre, on no man crofri, they won't eat me can't tremara. I mean, this is just something I said in a passing. But mothers, I mean, the moment they realize that their children are worth something, they pay attention to them. And that's why I want to encourage every mother. See your child's destiny as very important and pay every price to keep that for the child. The mother of Moses, Jochebed, was no different. She believed in the destiny of her child and acted accordingly. And of course, by her acts, by her faith, by her fortitude, she becomes a model mother. She becomes a mother of destiny. But let's look at the full story. We know the story of Joseph, of Jacob, and so on. Now, the sons of Jacob sold their brother Joseph. Joseph ended up in Egypt. Later, there was famine and hunger in the land of Canaan. And so people had to travel from there to Egypt to go and buy food. The brothers of Joseph did the same. And meanwhile, God was working on Joseph. He had gone through a certain experience from Potiphar's house to, of course, from the pit to Potiphar's house, and from Potiphar's house to prison, and from the prison to the palace. I mean, and it was like that. He had then become the prime minister of Egypt, and so on. And so when the brothers went in there, we know the story how things went. Later Joseph revealed himself to the brothers. They brought their father Jacob down, and they settled in the land of Goshen. There in the land of Goshen, because they were they really prospered, and their number multiplied. And so for over 400 years, the descendants of Jacob through Joseph filled the land of Goshen in Egypt. Now, pharaohs came and left, and they appreciated the work that Joseph had done for the nation. But after 400 years, there came a pharaoh who did not know Joseph. Either that pharaoh was lazy and did not read the history of the land, or was wicked and decided to ignore what Joseph had done, because he just went straight and attacked the children of Israel. I mean, if you are a king and you take over the authority of a land, and you realize that there's a group of people who are powerful, who are strong, rich, who are occupying a place, and you do not know where they came from, and the best thing to do is to do a research, or get your research team to work on them and get to know them. But I want to believe this king knew, and deliberately decided to ignore and forget Joseph. But whatever it was, the king now subjected the children of Israel to servitude. He made slaves out of them. As if that was not enough, he realized the people were too many. The more he troubled them, the more they increased. And so he decided to do something, because he feared that when the Jews, at the rate at which they were prospering, the rate at which they were multiplying, they would soon take over the land. And so he wanted to curb that. And so he ordered, first of all, that all male borns should be killed. In fact, he instructed the midwives to do that. Some of the godly midwives refused. But later on, the story was that even before the midwives could attempt to, of course, delivering them, could attempt to kill the babies at birth, the mothers would have already given birth. The moment they went into labor, before the midwives could come around, the woman would have given birth, and that was divine. So later on, the man said, well, in that case, then if you give birth and that child is a boy, is male, kill him. If you don't kill him yourself, we will kill him and deal with you. So there was a threat. And it was in this context that we find this mother of destiny, Jochebed. The Bible describes her as the daughter of Levi, and then, of course, the mother of Aaron and Moses. Aaron was 3 years older than Moses, and Miriam was their oldest sister. So if the age difference between Aaron and Moses is anything to go by, then probably Miriam could also be 6 years older than Moses, and or could be 6 years at the time Moses was born, because she was a little girl at that time. Now, Um, the passage we read said that when Jochebed conceived, she bore a son. Now when she saw the son, she saw a beautiful child. Now the word beautiful there does not just refer to the looks of the child, because look, every child is beautiful at birth. Every child is beautiful at birth. And every mother sees the newborn child as the most beautiful baby. And so it wasn't just the physical looks of Moses, but there was something deeper than that. I mean, say yeshe tibia ina Jochebed owom na ohene no opede ose Israel no also obi biara obawo oba benyin no wonkun na trust meta se de bira Jochebed owo ne baberima no na ohunde ne ho ye fiew nti odinisie na mrikyem de onye ahofe keke na ohuni de so the button biara ne ba ho ye nfew nanso so ohuni bibia enankai na wenhun wo honim bem. She saw something in her son which other mothers could not see in their children. And so for other mothers, because of the fear of the Pharaoh, they had to kill their babies. But for Jochebed, because of what she saw in her son, she didn't kill the son. And so she decided to hide that son. And and that is what we read in Hebrews chapter 11 verse 23. By faith, when Moses, when he was born, was hidden 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a beautiful child. He was a child of destiny. And that's why they hid him 3 months. And listen to the next sentence. And they were not afraid of the king's command. Jochebed in a nukun Amram wonya Moses no of course time abra wodo Miriam na wo Aaron no na mbra biara mbe nanso wo Moses no na mbra ho nyi de awo babanyina kunu nanso enna na ejei wo huni de honna banu yasronko, and they could read a special destiny in the child's life because they looked at the child with the eye of faith. And now say hwe ba abati na ehu hwe mofra na won na ye won nam ho no wanya kwa o intimam wo won twa na nsunsun na etikro na nhihye na ahoroba nkansam gengen bi ngu abofra no do waran kasa fa wanwa hwe na hu de abofra na nyamedza ma wo no oyodishi wanyame anyim na enyim abofra no ne daache ma obeye intino men tutu ne nchin men jeja no mu men buna bonfia osande sebi sawu enya ne ye ya ono ncheda abofra no sumo enya ne ye owo enya ne ye na nyamida abofra na achawo no ono sunti no wo da ihwe abofra ne ye osande abofra no ye nyame ne de hye. Now that is what Jochebed saw. Jochebed hunde Moses abofra na nyamida ma ho no oye odehye, and she saw him with a different eye and saw beauty in that child. And so what did she do? She strategized. Of course, first of all, they hid the child for 3 months. And at a point, they couldn't hide the child any longer. Oye denara abofra bosun wa ye dede wa kikem, and the Egyptians would know you are hiding a baby. And when they come and it's a baby boy, you are in trouble. And so what happened was that after 3 months, when they couldn't hide him any longer, they decided to experiment something. So they created an ark and filled it with asphalt and pitch, so that it would be water resistant, so that it wouldn't let water in. At the same time, it would be buoyant, so that it would float on the water. Adwena wonyenye de yenye bribi wonyen kenten bi bibi dot the kenten na yemfa asphalt bibi de coal tile na bemdemendeme bi mfefema oyema nsu nkom na yensan so yenye ndem obeya yede tunsu da oyemmem na mum obeteta nsu nenyi. And they did that so cleverly and put the child in it and set the child on the river. Some way, somehow, the ark, that little thing they put in the river or on the river, found its way where the daughter of Pharaoh would come and bathe. I want to believe that that was a sort of a vacation, a holiday, an amusement place for the daughter of Pharaoh. So that when it was hot, she would just come out and bathe, like a swimming pool for the daughter of Pharaoh. She had her own bathhouse, everything. I mean, of course, she lived in the palace. But she would still come out from time to time to have a river bath. And that was the time the little ark also appeared. And so that coincidence was the beginning of the miracle. In fact, the idea to do that was in itself a miracle. The ability to do it was another divine thing. And then that coincidence of time and location was another thing. Oye deni yena bira wada dinu kweke sinsu nenyino ehwanara suna Pharaoh ne baba no so baba bogwar. Now ohwano hunde bibi densu nenyi. She sent her maids to go and pick it. Now, Chosem say when she opened it, the child wept. The baby wept. And that was the next miracle. The next miracle in the abofrenu ma Pharaoh nibaninya ayemshishibi. She had compassion for that child. Now, remember, this is Pharaoh's daughter. Her father had given an edict that every Hebrew child should be killed. And yet here was Pharaoh's daughter seeing a Hebrew baby, a child that should be killed. And yet instead of anger, she had compassion. That was another miracle. Instead of anger, she had compassion. And while she was contemplating what to do, Moses' bigger sister, Miriam, who had been asked to hide and watch what would happen. Now, why would the mother ask Miriam to hide and watch what would happen if she didn't have faith that something good would happen? She believed in the destiny of her child, and she also believed that the God who gave that child to her would also honor the child's destiny. Ohunde nyame amfa abofra na mba ne kekede abofra ne ba ne nam ho na wakunu wawu na wasana akoda bi ogidi de abofra na nyame dze ama no owo da chi bi inti bro ye de madi nyina no da abofra no sinsu no do no na okeche ne baba ne de onko suma na onhwe dza obokodo. And the young girl, maybe around 6 years, 7, 8. Oh, when the Pharaoh nebana atameina bofrena shasusu na Pharaoh nebanenya yemshishibia manene pe no peho. And it was obvious that the Pharaoh's Pharaoh's daughter knew that the child was a Hebrew child. Inti Miriam pewa na semni de may I get a nurse for you from among the Hebrew women? Which means that it was obvious the child was a Hebrew. Also, munko frɛ obi ma obi nurse bi na ɔmbɔ hwɛ wo ba no ma wo. Abɔfra kakraba ne maame anka nkyerɛ ne dɛ ɔnka dam ne maame so ɔnkɔ hwɛ de obesi. And so Pharaoh ne baba no katam abɔfra pe no pay. Also, munko hwehwɛ obi mmerɛw from the Hebrew women that she may nurse your child or the child for you. And the other miracle was Pharaoh's daughter said, yes, go. Na ehimfa na edwinde obokaka fa nanaba. Which Hebrew woman would this girl go and call than the baby's own mother? And so this whole episode is shrouded in beautiful coincidences that come as miracles to us. In Takafre, ne maame bay, ne maame oye abofra na rankasa so ne maame Jochebed. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you wages. So the child who should have been killed was not killed. The child who should have been thrown away from the house now had to be brought into the house on the command of Pharaoh's daughter. So now a woman who should have been mourning the death of her child was now taking care of that same child for a fee. If this is not God, then what is it? So Moses had to go back, of course, had to be returned to his own house. Moses had to be taken care of by his own mother. And Moses' mother probably was not too wealthy, but now she had to take care of her own child and was paid by the daughter of Pharaoh. Amazing. And trust me, if the daughter of the king adopts a child and says, take care of that child, I will pay you, that payment would not be a small thing. And then, of course, for the baby himself, he wouldn't lack anything. All the food the baby would eat, the clothing, the what have you, everything would be provided from the palace. From the palace. And so what the other children did not get, Moses had, and in multiples. And when the child grew, now Moses' mother took the child back to Pharaoh's daughter. In this episode, I want us to look at 4 things about Jochebed. About Jochebed. Let me limit that to 3. First of all, you look at her faith. Her faith. Nijidzi. And that is what makes her a mother of destiny. Her faith in God. You see, when others were losing their faith, after 400 years, of course, she was the great-great-great-great-grandparents were the ones who went into Egypt. She was born into Egypt, grew up, everything, but she held on to the faith of her fathers. No wonder she was able to raise Moses with the same faith. And that was the other miracle. If the baby Moses had been sent straight to the palace, he would have been an Egyptian through and through, and would never have learned anything about the God of his fathers. But God worked it out in such a way that in his growing stages, he lived with his real mother and father, who instructed him in the faith of the Hebrews, who instructed him and brought him up in the fear of Jehovah. So by the time Moses was returned to the palace, by the time Jochebed sent Moses back to the daughter of Pharaoh, they had taught Moses everything the child needed to know. You see, and it confirms what the Bible says, you train up a child the way he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. Jochebed had the opportunity to train Moses right from infancy, and deposited in him the faith of the fathers, the faith in Jehovah, and then made Moses know everything he needed to know, that, hey, you are not an Egyptian, you are a Hebrew. This is how we came into this place, and no matter what, we still remain Hebrews. We may be in a foreign land, but we are still Hebrews. And that thing stayed with Moses. And so when Moses went back to the palace, in spite of everything that happened to him, he never forgot what his mother told him. And awofo Zayen hui Jochebed efi what Moses bread da onhwe no odinkan naranka satete naranba otete ne ba mpoma wotua ne kaw na so hin ne ba sende ye de medwume ne motua wo kaw a no nya ketua kakraba yɛbɛka ho asɛm ibio Moses naranka so ya abɔfra no wendi hia osande no ɔyɛ ɔhene ne ba no ne ba ɔhene ne ba na agyatum dɛ ɔrefa Moses dɛ ne ba osande na wetu ne ho narapo na ɔde din ne man na ɔsmetu ne ho nto ɔyɛ mo ba nto so ɔyɛ mo ba na ɔyɛ Hebrewni na ma afa Hebrewni dɛ ɔnhwɛ na ne hia dzi nyinara so ɔde ɔno Pharaoh ne ba no na ɔhwɛ na ɔyɛ no wie otua ɛnaneka dɛ ɔnhwɛ ɛba no mfaman na dza ɔyɛ daw wɔ mu so nyi dɛ ɛna ne nya nara nkasa ne ba no teten na ɔdze nyamesuro ɔdze Jehovah no ho nkyerɛkyerɛ ɔdze tetsee Moses nti bere a Moses nyini a mmere so da ɔda wɔsan so de no kɔ ahemfie wɔsan de no kɔma Pharaoh ne babaa no na Moses nyim ne bibiara na onyim bebia ofi onyim na abakwasam onyim ne chir onyim ne nyame onyim ne nkrofo onyim hwana abrabɔ everything and Jochebed made sure that wɔakyerɛkyerɛ sɛ ndɛ mmɔframma ayɛ asoɔdzen sɛ ndɛ mmɔframma nnyim ndzɛmɛ bi a sombo no yɛmfa mbɔ biara yɛdze bɔ awofo sɛ awofo rutum ahwɛ mmɔfra bere a wɔrenyin yɛdze nyamesuro rehyɛ hɔn mu yɛtete hɔn wɔ nyame kwan do yɛkyerɛ hɔn ma wɔsi wɔbɔ mpae yɛkyerɛ hɔn ma wɔsi wɔdzi mpanyimfo nyi na adze a nkyɛnyɛ onye dɛ ndɛ mmɔframma yɛbɔ hɔn do a ɔmbɔ yi. And that is true. For any child that is stubborn, for any child who rejects God, for any child who insults elders, I blame the parents. Anya ye krano abofreno when the child was a baby, he or she knew nothing. And if that child was in your custody at that time, then it was your responsibility to put in that child, to feed that child with everything that child needed to know. Sabi inye obontini nyi ina ohwa wo ba ma. Yes, yeah, boy school teacher fo na wotete wo kire henem baade wo yede. Nanso ansa na wo ba ne boko school no oye wode. Dedi be hye abofra mu no mu no teacher nyi ntumi nyi mfim, teacher nyi ne botum atodo. The foundation of child training is with the parents. And that is what Jochebed did. And this went so well with Moses that all the years he spent in the king's palace, he never forgot his heritage. He never forgot where he came from. He never forgot his identity as a Jew. He never forgot his religion. He never forgot his God. And all these were taught him by Jochebed. And so Jochebed's faith was unquestionable. She worshipped the God of her fathers. She believed in the God of miracles. Look, for Jochebed to have even stood Miriam by and told her, watch and see what, that was a woman of faith, because she believed in the God of miracles. The God who gave me this child would also take care of this child, and any miracle can happen, anything can happen. And so Miriam, hide in the bushes and see what will happen. She served God. Jochebed also saw the destiny of a child. I mean, she saw beyond what other mothers saw. Other mothers only saw baby boys and feared the king, and so they killed them. But Jochebed saw a destiny child. And because of what she saw, she was not afraid of the king. She dared the king. What do you see in your child? And I want to challenge you tonight. Do you sense greatness in that child? Let me ask you, what would you do if you gave birth to a child and got to know, probably a prophet came around and told you this would be your child, the future of your child? Your child would be a great pastor. Your child would be the president of the nation. Your child will be the MP for his people. It is your child who would rescue his people, who would provide for his people. This your child will become a king. This your child will do this. I mean, listen, from day one, you wouldn't joke with that child, because you know what the child would become. But don't wait for anybody to tell you about the future of your child. Create that future. See in your child that destiny that God has placed in him, and do what Jochebed did. Don't follow the crowd. Everybody is doing this. No, my child is different. My child is beautiful. My child has the calling of God upon his life. My child is a destiny child. And that was Jochebed. No wonder we get so careless in handling children. Osande sabi hankasa yenhu abofra no ne dache. Ne yejano narankasa nka ne nam abofra no fi school ba eyi watara asan hoda no ne kids agor ayo homework ewia kids agor. But say yenyim de abofra no ye nyame ne de share enche obefia we dide wie we gwar wa ye no homework enche ya betna se na yenya abofra no edi nkomo ya church na fa hene nyame ho anaso de ye kafa no school ye din rebefie na ade a yenya abofra no bedi nkomo papa. We inculcate values and virtues in that child, so that when the child grows, he will not depart from what you teach him. Jochebed shows the way through her faith. Her faith. In there, mamunka ni jedi hunkote nyame ya duma de sende ye bosodo. Na yehu da oma Jochebed obeye a mother of destiny. Onyi ni jedi. Her faith, she served God, she saw the destiny of her child, and she sensed greatness in the child. She served God, she saw destiny in her child, and she sensed greatness in that child. Ono norma de Jochebed obeyem and nasronko. And I pray that all mothers listening to me now would not see their children as ordinary, but will see their children as beautiful, would see their children as having the mark of God upon them. Here, let me read something from the book of Acts. Let's see how Stephen captures this whole thing. When Stephen under the power of the Holy Spirit was preaching to the Jews, he said in Acts chapter 7 verse 17 onwards, he said, "But when the time of the promise drew near, which God had sworn to Abraham, The people grew and multiplied in Egypt till another king arose who did not know Joseph. This man dealt treacherously with our people and oppressed our forefathers, making them expose their babies so that they might not live. At this time, Moses was born and was well pleasing to God. Notice that phrase, was well pleasing to God. And he was brought up in his father's house for 3 months. But when he was set out, Pharaoh's daughter took him away and brought him up as her own son. And Moses learned all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words and deeds. This was the commentary of Stephen. So, why did they hide him? According to Stephen, they saw that he was well pleasing to God. Well pleasing to God. And that explains why they saw him as a beautiful child, well pleasing to God, which meant that they saw the hand of God on that child. With the eyes of faith, they could determine that this is no ordinary child. And that's the same thing about Rebecca. But for Rebecca, God spoke to her about the son Jacob. God spoke to her about Jacob. But for Jochebed, God didn't need to talk to her. She, out of her faith, discovered that the child was pleasing to God, a special child. And so she risked everything to ensure that the child was safe. I see Shedi Adenu on online, Gracie Mensa, David Nabila. Hey, Dave, good. And a few others have come on. Yeah, Reverend JB Dankwatebi is also joining us from the US. I think he's commented again. Azafo, bless you. Now, this is Jochebed, the mother of destiny, a woman with faith and fortitude. So the first thing we learn about her is her faith. Her faith in God made her serve God, and she was able to impart her fear of God. She was able to impart her knowledge of God to her child. Inti bria Moses orukwa himfie honara no onyim bibia. Onyim bebi ofi, onyim ne nyame, onyim ne chir, onyim ne fie, onyim nuanom hamenzu ho aworuhu. Inti otsi Pharaoh ne fie ne nyinara na onyim. And interestingly, say the Stephen okay, also Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. Now, when we were growing up in primary school, we learned, or we were taught, that civilization started by the banks of the river Nile. River Nile, of course, not Egypt. Intini se Egypt na nyimidini nyinara nenjo owa. Ina chede ohene ne ba ne de obenyantete papa se hona university kese nyimidini nyinara owo da na chede Moses na wore tetse na ma wa beye ohene ba ohene nana wa be dade no no de. And I want to believe that Moses went to the best university in Egypt, which happens to be the cradle of civilization. So Moses learned the culture, the wisdom, the knowledge, everything. And no wonder Stephen describes him as a man who was mighty in words and mighty in deeds, because he was brought up well. But it's in wofie na wakyerɛkyerɛ no wɔ school so. Onyɛ ne nyinara bom. And Moses was mighty in words and mighty in deeds. Ne nyinara osande ne maame Jochebed oso no mu gye ne taataa. Ɛnanom mɛyɛnto hɛn mba hɔn daakye ngu. Mɛyɛnto hɛn mba hɔn destinies ngu. Osande nyame wɔ biribi papa dze ma hɔn. Ofi ndɛ sɛ ɛretsei ma wo ba no a wada no ka gyina ne nkyɛn fa wo nsa gu no do na bɔ mpae ma no. Ofi ndɛ rekɔ yi, mɛnyɛ no hei, mɛnyɛ no kai, mɛnhyɛ no ahoroba, mɛnwowɔ no twɛr. Sɛ biribi nyi ɛnye no ntena hɔ kasa kyerɛ no. Bu ne dɛ ɔyɛ ɔdehye bi a daakye bi ɔrebɛgye wara nkasa efi ɛhaw a ɛwom. Ɔrebɛgye ne nuanom, ɔrebɛgye n'abusua, ɔrebɛgye ne kurow, ɔrebɛgye ne man. Ɛde dɛmɛnyiwa no de hwɛ wo ba a ɔwɔ kwan a ɛbɛfa do ɛde atete no. If we should see our children with the same eyes that Jochebed saw Moses, then we will do everything, pay every price to keep our children alive, to keep our children well taught, and to impart, instruct, and impact our children with the knowledge of God. Mother of Destiny, Jochebed. My name is Pastor Gate. We will continue with this lesson, God willing, next week. Today we looked at her faith. Next week we will look at her fortitude. And then we will continue from there. Nyame unshiro na omo na omanye jedzi de Jochebed Moses ne mami na fadam nyame suyara fatitse woba. Nyame nka he no ho na unshira hen. Nyame yaduma desende ebasodo. We're from a Sofugate. Program ni Fruitful Family. Koside nyumbre biara. Na onkono de kesi nondu. It's bro. Nyame nka ho. Amen. Onyame domofo wa domieno